each team fared in the offseason, who do you think, maybe did a little bit better than the other?
Yeah, stick with the Chargers, too. I mean, they had a historic offseason. Tom Telesco really had a great free agency, which usually they're very quiet. He kind of just sticks to his guns and goes to the draft. But they had a great free agency, getting Chris Harris Jr., Linval Joseph, among others. They got Brian Balaga to stir up that offensive line. They traded for Trey Turner, and then had a great draft. I mean, I think there's mixed emotions on Justin Herbert, but I think he was their guy. And they were able to get him, and then trading back up to get Kenneth Murray, which, again, very unlike Tom Telesco to trade at all in the draft. He usually just stays pat with his picks. And so I think he's kind of turning a new leaf. We're seeing a change of the guard here a little bit in how he does things. So overall, the Chargers, I think, killed their offseason. They had a top 5 offseason overall in the NFL. Rams, kind of similar to their uniforms, got a lot of flack for a lot of moves they did or didn't do. Got a lot of flack for a lot of draft picks. But once the dust has kind of settled and people are chewing on it, they really did not have a bad offseason. They did improve in certain areas, and they kind of have stayed pat in others. So I think they did all right as well, but the Chargers overall had just a phenomenal offseason.
And then that kind of brings me to the next question because, I know some people who've been Rams fans even to St. Louis, and, now they're kind of maybe not as gung-ho as they were when the Rams first got here. So, do you think the Rams are losing steam a little bit, and is it at the wrong time considering, they're finally moving into their big stadium, which, the Chargers were supposed to be really an afterthought, but now they're building momentum. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I think that's a good question. And I think what this logo upheaval, if you want to call it that, or the the shock and awe of it has shown is that this is a passionate fan base. And whether they're upset or happy, at least they're talking about it. There's a lot of coverage on it, and I don't know how often you guys are on Twitter, but Twitter exploded when that logo released. I was actually at a Wildcats game when it I think it was Robinson from Yahoo that first announced it, and so I was pregame down there at Dignity Health, and everyone was just going nuts over this logo. But yeah, I don't think they're dying out necessarily. I think just it's a little quieter because of no sports in general, but overall, the chatter about the logo shows that this is still a passionate fan base, and they just have to win. I mean, they're coming off a 9-7 season. If they're able to turn things around, I think they'll be able to get things kind of back to where it was. I mean, what do you guys think? Are you seeing a good LA fan base here still for the Rams specifically?
I think it's both. I think the Rams fans are getting a little less loud and chipper, especially after how good of a season the 49ers had, and now we're seeing all these closet 49er fans in the city pop up.
They're always like that. They show up every 7 to 15 years, and they're like, oh, Joe Montana. Like, fam, where were you when they were terrible?
So, I mean, we have two teams, but it still feels like LA's really up for grabs. And
I would
go ahead.
I would say that the Rams are pretty much like Lob City, but we know that their window's closed.
I mean, that's another good question. They're essentially
the Clippers of football.
Where would you rank the LA football rivalry right now in terms of other rivalries in Los Angeles? Is it even on the radar?
As in Rams versus Chargers?
As in Rams versus Chargers compared to Dodgers versus Angels or Clippers versus Lakers
USC
or
versus UCLA.
USC versus UCLA. Like, does it even compare to that yet? Is it even on that scale?
I think it's getting there, and I think that's kind of what they're trying to build. And the whole when the Chargers came here, they had the Fight for LA as their theme in training camp. And for a while, I feel like it was always the Rams kind of just looked at them like an afterthought, like most of the city did, to be honest with you. But I think because of what the Chargers have done, because of the team they put together, because of their marketing department, because of what they've been doing on social media, they're starting to kind of surprise people and sneak up on these Rams fans. And now we're starting to see a lot more kind of back and forth. So it's not there yet where the Lakers and Clippers or that, but I think it is growing. And to a sense, on the playing field, I think they're very even, whereas you have some of the other teams where the Lakers are, well, the Clippers have been good too, but the Lakers are still, I mean, it's a Lakers town. So I think it's getting there. I think we'll have a good rivalry. Yeah, we'll see. I think it's just going to take some time to keep growing.
And with that, I got a couple things. When it comes to the whole content creation and you look at the Chargers and how they really like colors, like it's splashy, they have personality. You factor that in with the fact that they signed Storm Norton, left tackle for the Wildcats. So there's the XFL angle there, and they have all these different personalities. Do you almost feel like the Rams are almost like, as far as excitement for their season, people are more excited to see the Chargers necessarily in this new stadium than they are the actual Rams?
I mean, I think if you're a casual fan that doesn't care about either team, that might be what you're alluding to. And I think, there would be a little more excitement about this Chargers team. Have the Jack Boys as the secondary.
And their tickets are cheaper. So that doesn't hurt.
The beer's probably going to be cheaper, too.
Yeah, you would think. I mean, we'll see what actual prices will be. But I think there is a little bit more for the casual fan about what these Chargers, and I think too, because the stigma and the story of the Chargers has been, that they don't have fans, they can't fill their own stadium. It's almost like fans are kind of being like, well, maybe I do want to check these guys out and see what they've had to put up with and kind of establish themselves in LA. And the Rams are kind of more the, I guess, boring team, but they still have Sean McVay. I mean, there's still so many fun things about the Rams too. I think just with the way the uniforms went and with the way the draft and offseason went, the Chargers seem like they're on a higher trajectory right now. But once the season starts, I'm going to say that we are having a season. Hopefully we are, but pretend like we are.
Yes,
I think
sir.
things will be back to normal, and the Rams will or be more even keel with that, and we'll see a lot more Rams fans back to where they were.
And with that, with the fan bases, now I was at those LA Wildcat games, and it feels like the energy was just so intense and high, and like LA really gravitated to that team and adopted that team. It's hard to get people to show up to a game like that on a Saturday when the Lakers had just got through playing and everybody's in downtown LA, so everybody else comes to Carson. When we're looking at the Chargers fan support at that same exact stadium in Carson, at Cal State Dominguez Hills, and you look at the XFL, participation at that same stadium, are you worried that maybe the Chargers support might flop?
I mean, that seems to be the big $1 million question and the whole kind of concern with them moving here. But here's one thing, and this is, I'm not a Chargers fan. I cover the team. I'm not a fan. But one thing I've always said while covering them, and I don't know if you guys have thought this or noticed this, but it wasn't necessarily an issue with filling the stadium. It was just an issue with opposing fans. And when you're a fan of a team, and say you have kids at home, and all of a sudden your ticket is worth $400 to sell to some Green Bay fan that doesn't want to be in Wisconsin in the middle of December because they want to come to sunny California. If you can make $800 on a pair of tickets, why not sit at home with your son, watch the game there? And I think that was more the issue as opposed to just there was no Charger fans. I think LA are opportunists, and if you can make a quick buck and still watch your team, why not do that? And then you bring up the Wildcats, who I think was growing their popularity, but you can go to games for $15-20, get out there, have some beers, tailgate. And so I think it was just more the price and the cost, and now being in this new stadium where there's 70,000 seats to fill, so even if your resale value is a little higher, it's not going to be $400 for a regular season game. So I think that is going to offset itself, and we'll see a lot more Chargers fans come out for the games. And so that was just my opinion, and I talked to a lot of Chargers fans throughout the last 2-3 years, and I think it was more so just that opportunistic of making a quick buck on your ticket as opposed to going and sitting in traffic and all that to go to a game. So I think we won't see as big of an issue once they are in SoFi and there's more seats to fill, because then, why sell your $70 ticket for $90 if you'd rather just go watch the game in this beautiful new stadium?
Yeah.
Sure. And with that, because the Wildcats, especially with their pregame stuff and a lot of those different food vendors, I think they did a lot right. Do you see that kind of carried over to the new stadium? Because, the NFL, they copied stuff from the XFL before, especially with the LA experience.
Yeah, I hope. I love what the Wildcats did. And I remember seeing you there, and, I think that they were just really on the rise. And I know LA had one of the lower attendance or whatever, but that's just because in LA it takes a while to build something. But they were doing the right thing, and I hope we see a lot of that carry over into the pregame ritual and stuff like that, and I think it'll bode well for the whole fan experience, and I think that's what LA needs to do. We saw when the Lakers got in their heyday, the Showtime Lakers, and what they kind of transformed the game. And I think these LA teams need to do that in order to kind of build their brand here and build their credibility in this new stadium. And I think we'll see it. I remember being at a game last year at the Collie I went with a buddy who's from the Midwest, and at halftime there was the LA Rams mariachi that played. He's like, I've never been to an NFL game where there's a mariachi playing at halftime. But that's part of the LA experience, and those are things that need to bring forth in this new stadium, and I think they will. And hopefully some of those XFL things we saw do carry over.
Especially with that press box, because that food in that press box was fire. I mean, they shorted us on the desserts and the cookies, but
yeah, it ran out. The desserts ran out quick, man. They were out quick.
They had like 2 minutes, like 2 seconds. But that chicken, the chicken and the spaghetti,
coffee and cakes, man.
I don't think you understand that. Like that press box dinner, that last home game. Oh man,
it was. Yeah, I was impressed. We had Chinese one time. We had chicken.
They had hood Chinese, but gourmet hood Chinese.
Yeah.
But yeah, Ryan. So I mean, you're talking about building something here in LA, and obviously you're kind of doing the same thing with your podcast and your network, and you've been doing it for a while. You've been doing it in different iterations and stuff like that. So if you could, why don't you talk a little bit about your journey and what exactly LA Football podcast and network is to you?
Yeah, for sure, man. So I try to not talk too much about it, but I started off.
Go ahead, man. This is your time.
All right.
You're the interviewee,
I don't want to bore your audience. So I started off like I think a lot of people, like when you want to get in this industry, I think you have to just get your foot in the door any way possible, which means writing for a lot of free websites, trying to interview as many people as possible. So I was doing a lot of free writing for, Fanside, SB Nation, stuff like that.
Yep.
And after a while, I was like, man, I mean, I'm doing all this stuff for free anyway. Why not start my own? I mean, maybe you guys kind of thought the same thing. I'm like, they're not really benefiting me other than me putting SB Nation on a resume. So I'm not getting paid. I'm not getting credentials at all. So why not just start building my own brand? So I started a website called Sports Al Dente, which was a full NFL website. I worked at an Italian restaurant. So that's where the name came from. And so I covered all the NFL.
Same here.
Yeah. So I covered all the NFL, and I started realizing while doing that is we'd have really good coverage of 6 teams, and the other 24 or 28, whatever, we did not have great coverage. So I was like, okay, it's getting too watered down. So then we transformed it to just West Coast, just the AFC West and NFC West. And then kind of similar. I was obviously based here in LA, so our Rams and Chargers coverage was really, really good. I'm a Broncos fan by trade. I'm from Denver originally, so our Denver Broncos coverage was good, but like our Cardinals coverage, Seahawks coverage was lacking. So okay, that's not fair to our readers. We want a spot where it's truly great coverage for the teams we cover. So then I was like, well, I'm in LA. Why not we add college and we just do LA football? So we added the Bruins, we added the Trojans, and then later obviously the Wildcats. And so we've now been able to build this brand. It's been 1 year since or almost a year. We transferred, we rebranded the site last, I want to say it was October, to the LAFB network. And so it's been almost a year, and we've seen awesome growth. We've been trying to get involved in the community, trying to do these live podcasts. We were credentialed like you guys for the Wildcats. I believe I saw one of you also at the NFLPA Bowl.
Yeah, we were both there too. Yeah.
That was fun time.
Yeah, super cool. And just doing stuff like that, man, and trying to get involved with fans and just really have a great knowledge of all these LA football teams, because I think LA football sometimes gets a bad knack, but there's a great history. I mean, you have the Trojans, who have phenomenal history, the Rams, who originally were here since the 40s. You have teams like the LA Dons that were here. The Chargers actually started here. I don't know if you know how the Chargers name came about, but they were named after the bugle that was played at Dodger games when they would yell "charge," and so the owner named his team the Chargers. So I've loved the culture of LA football, and I've loved covering these teams. So we're just trying to build a brand that really covers these teams well, because I don't think they get great coverage. I mean, I feel like the big networks, ESPN and Fox and stuff like that, they're more of an oversight. They cover the Dodgers, the Lakers, and then they'll talk about the Rams here and there. They'll talk the Chargers get really crappy coverage. So trying to just really give them their due and cover the teams that diehard fans really want to hear. So that's kind of my story and how we are where we are, and we'll just keep grinding away and keep pushing this thing on.
That's amazing. Fantastic. And with that, you kind of talked about you saw some of the games. How did the Rose Bowl security treat you?
I don't think I had a problem. Did you guys meet some